This episode of Let's Talk 716 Sports. Today, my special guest is Matt Greco, and we'll be talking about the Bills season and some Sabres hockey.
Robby, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. I missed the Sabres. 2 weeks off now. We have no hockey. You're watching your Penguins over there. I don't know what you're doing. Sabres come back tomorrow, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, and I read on Twitter today that they had 7 people left on the COVID list after they took 2 people off.
Oh, well, 7's better. It's getting better, I guess, right? Only better. Kruger's got to get off the list. That's the big one.
Yeah.
We'll see how Steve Smith is as a coach, I guess, in these coming games here this week. But Kruger's got to get off, and Risto and McCabe. That's our top pair. So, but I'm ready to talk some 716 sports. So fire away with your questions.
How do you think the Sabres are doing so far this year?
That is a good question. The Sabres are completely average, and it shows by their record, literally. They're 4-4-2 in 10 games this season. It's been a lot, and I know a lot of people who talk the Sabres say this, and this is a very buzzy word, but it's been very inconsistent, which it has been in the past couple seasons. Nothing's really changed on that front. I think Kruger now in the second year of his system, I think the players are getting a little more acclimated to the system and playing within it and getting a little more comfortable. But it's inconsistent. They can't put together 60 straight minutes. The only time they did really this season was that first game against Philly when they looked completely dominant. They were great on the forecheck. They were aggressive. They really took the game to maybe a better team in the Flyers. But I think they're a little better than their record right now. I'd like to see them kind of at like that 6-win pace right now, maybe like 6-3-3 or something. I know that math doesn't add up, but I think they're a little better than their record indicates. We need to get some top line scoring. Skinner is scoreless in 10 games. I'm hoping, this COVID thing may be a blessing in disguise in terms of Skinner's usage, because Kruger, I don't know what he's doing with Skinner, honestly, in terms of his player usage. He doesn't play him in overtime. He doesn't put him in on the shootouts. He's got him on the third line with who like Riley Sheehan and Curtis Lazar. And I love Lazar, as our Twitter followers know. Like, I think he's like the third best player on the team, and that's like jokingly, but kind of not, because I like what he brings to the table. But those aren't guys like you put a 40-goal scorer with typically. So maybe the COVID thing with these players being out and under the protocol. I saw Skinner practice with the top line today, and Eichel, and I think Olofsson was on there. So maybe this is kind of that bump Skinner needs. And, you can tell he's frustrated out there. It's scoreless in 10 games. A guy like that gets frustrated. So, again, inconsistencies. Eichel has 2 goals. Olofsson's the top scorer at 4, but most of those are on the power play. They need to be better 5-on-5. That's what it really comes down to. Like their penalty kill is very good this season. They've improved that with the addition of Eakin and Reeder and those guys. Their power play is good, and it has been, and it continues to be. They really need to improve 5-on-5. So, I'm hoping that if that improves and these guys start scoring, like Skinner and Hall gets more comfortable, and their shooting percentages are so low. Like Hall's shooting percentage is like a 3, and Darlene, who we can get into later probably because he's been kind of a mess. He's at like a 3%. Just like if those things start to kind of flip, then I'll have confidence that they can make the playoffs here in this shortened season.
Yeah, and Darlene, he just came off the COVID list too.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know, like I don't know what his deal is. Like I joke that he falls a lot out there for a guy who's like came out as like the best skating defenseman in his draft year, and he's this offensive player and he's super smooth on the puck. Like the guy falls a lot, makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, I talked about the 5-on-5 stuff. Like Dowling's been on the ice for, I think the Sabres have given up like 24 even strength goals. I think I remember seeing, and Dowling's been on the ice for half of those. Like that is not good in terms of plus minus. He's the worst on the team. He just needs to start playing like a number one pick, a game changing defenseman that he was drafted to be. He's been extremely disappointed. I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know if Kruger's system has just kind of, it took away his strengths of his game, and that's being like an offensive defenseman. I was kind of picturing him like when he got drafted as a player you like, and back in the day, Brian Campbell, kind of being like a Brian Campbell, but better, almost like another version of Soupy, who is even more skilled and more offensive of a weapon. And he just has kind of taken that Tyler Myers route of just, he's had a really good first year and he's kind of been very inconsistent since then. So if he can turn it around, that'd be great for this team.
How do you think the Sabres will do like when they start back up?
It'll be interesting because we saw like with the NFL and the Bills kind of getting a break with the Titans game, or the Titans getting a break with the Bills game. Like that 2 weeks gives them a fresh pair of legs. So I don't know how that like translates over to hockey. If the Sabres are just going to have completely fresh legs where these other teams have been playing during this time. We'll see if they'll be rusty. I don't know. This 2 week break will be interesting. I'm excited to see some of these young guys. It's like the typical Sabres fan, right? We're always excited to see the prospects because of how bad we've been. Like, okay, give me a guy in the prospect pool who can change us around. So maybe we'll get a Jacob Bryson out there or Will Borgen. And those guys got to be better than, Montour. And I think Colin Miller's been okay, but Montour's been a mess. I don't even know why they brought him back, honestly, on that 1 year deal. But, a guy like Joka Harju needs to get back in the lineup on a consistent basis. I don't ever want to see Matt Irwin again. He's fine for the physicality, but he just doesn't really – I think the game's too fast for him, honestly. So I'd like to see these young guys get up. I know Ruotsalainen is kind of stuck in Rochester, and they don't want to – they have the weird way of bringing up the European players for some reason if they're not automatically on the team, like a Dowling or a Risto or whatever. We saw it with Pilot getting kind of just bogged down in the AHL and him getting frustrated and leaving. We've seen it with a couple of other European guys. So I hope they don't ruin Ruotsalainen like that, because I think he's a really skilled player. I watched him in training camp last year, I believe, or whatever the full previous full season was, and he was pretty impressive. He's a little tiny out there. He's kind of like a Danny Briere. He's not very physical. You don't really notice him from a size standpoint, but he's very skilled. So I hope they give him his shot. We'll see a guy like maybe CJ Smith up here, who I liked during his short time last year. So these prospects can come up and really make some noise. I'm excited to always see the prospects. I hope they give them their fair shake, which they typically don't do. But if in terms of the rest of the season, like, again, if they can put it together, like that's all it takes is them putting it together, putting 60 minutes together, being consistent in their system. If they can put it together, they're in a very tough division, as we've seen with Washington and Pittsburgh and the Islanders even. And if they can put it together, they can have a shot at just as good as anyone. Who knows during this season if, another team gets stricken with COVID and has to, their key players have to sit out 2 weeks or whatever, like who knows? So, Sabres come back strong, rested, fresh legs, and really take it to them these next week or two and really get back in the race. And it's a shortened season, so they're really up against like the time limit here. They're right now, the way the schedule's shaked out, the Sabres are playing pretty much every other day. So that's going to be insanely difficult from a physical standpoint for any professional athlete to do that. So a lot of back-to-backs now get thrown in due to the break here. So they really don't have a lot of they need to kind of be flawless. Carter Hutton needs to step up. He hasn't been great. He's been a little better than last year because he could probably see a little better. Eye surgery helps when you're a goalie, apparently. Who knew? But he's going to need to step up big. He can't go on another like 10-game streak as he did last year where he didn't win a game. So it's going to take a complete team effort. And they're going to need the taxi squad, and they're going to need backup goalies and things like that to really be at the top of their game. And if they can put it together, they can do it. So we'll see.
Yeah, and we have 2 games coming up against the Islanders.
Hopefully, right?
I think on Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, Monday and Thursday. So those are, I mean, they're a team that's like directly above us. I think in the standings, they're 6-4-3. So if we can take out of those 2 games, if we can take 3 out of 4 points, that'd be nice. I think in these like kind of back-to-back games with these teams, if you can get like in the 3-point out of 4-point ratio or 4 out of 6-point ratio, like I think that'll be good for this team to start to climb up the standings a little. And Islanders aren't great. They had like one good season. I mean, they have some talented players like Barzal and some guys, but you know, the Sabres team is pretty talented. The top 2 lines are great. The third line of Skinner, Sheehan, and Lazar are pretty good. Eakin, we got to get Okposo out of the lineup. His advanced analytics are not good, and the problem is he's getting paid way too much money to just kind of be in the press box. So it's kind of forcing their hand to play him, I think. But I think the game has kind of passed him by. And he's had a great career for the health issues he's had throughout his career. Like, good, but I mean, he's not doing anything to help the team out there, in my opinion. So he's a guy that I think needs to kind of hit the press box and be just an emergency guy in case of a COVID situation like this. So, but yeah, if they can take 4 or 3 out of 4 points against the Islanders here, then I'll be happy. And if they look good doing it, of course.
Do you think Kevin Adams will address the goaltending position?
I don't know. That's a good question because they got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and I'll say his name a million times because he's a fun name to say. Down in Rochester, if they just kind of let him ride the pine down there and get his reps in, or if they bring him up, I don't know if they make a big move. I really like Ullmark. I know he gets a kind of a up and down roller coaster bad rap on like Sabres Twitter, but I think he's really good and he can be a starting caliber guy. Is he a Ryan Miller where he's playing, 85 to 90% of your games for the season? I don't think so, but is he a guy that can win you some close games and bail you out a lot? I think he's really good. He relies on his glove a little too much, but man, when he makes that glove save, it is something to watch. So I think they can ride Ullmark a little bit here. I think he's really good. I don't know if they make a move for a goalie. I'd rather see them make a move for a defenseman, honestly. Like, again, Montour is on a 1-year deal. He's not really working out. Is he a guy you can kind of trade off for a team maybe who's in need of a defenseman and get some of these young guys like Bryson and Borgen up here? I just think they got McCabe and Risto as their top pair, and Risto's been much, much better this season. He's on pace for like the most hits of his career over his 82-game span. His plus minus has been surprisingly good when he's been typically one of the worst in the past couple seasons. McCabe's, I think, playing his best season of the year so far, and those are 2 guys that are really, I think, bought into Kruger's system and have really excelled in it. Colin Miller's fine. It's like your 5th, 6th guy. Yoka Harju's, I think, are a really good young guy. But, Dowling, we mentioned his struggles, and Montour's just kind of like, he's not great. And the advanced analytics show he's not great. If the casual fan watching the game can see he's not that good. So I'd like to see them kind of make another move for maybe a named defenseman. And I think that would be kind of the maybe what tips the scales in their favor in terms of making a run to the playoffs here is another, shutdown pair if you go Yoka Harju and another guy you bring in. So I think it's going to be tough to make trades in kind of the shortened season. We'll see how the trade market plays out this year, but I think that'll be interesting to see like deadline day if any big moves are made with the 52 or whatever the 50-game season is this year. So if teams will wait on it, I don't know. And COVID protocols, of course, like do teams have to bring in a guy if they have to quarantine 2 weeks? I don't know. I didn't read up on the protocol rules, but we'll see how it plays out. I think Dylan Cousins has made quite a statement this year for being a young guy coming off of juniors. He's played fantastic for being his first year, and they had to keep him up here. There's no way they were sending him back down after his like entry level 10 games there. So because of his play, so I think he's really solidified the top 6 forwards, and now you got like 7 guys with Skinner included. To really solidify the top 2 lines. And they got the Eakin line, who's I think a good checking line, and Reeder's been a nice addition. I've liked him. So I really think they need to make a move defensively, and maybe ride Ullmark into the playoffs if they do make a run. What do you think? Would you like to see them make a move?
I mean, like for the goalie position, probably.
Yeah, you're not an Ullmark. Do you like Ullmark or Hutton or no?
I like Ullmark better than Hutton.
Yeah, me too. Ullmark's definitely better.
Yeah.
Hutton lets out those rebounds where it's like, man, what rebound control? Like, get Archer Survey back here as goalie coach, because the rebound control, like that guy made, what's his name? Who was that? Limbach, like an all-star goalie, Anders Limbach. So they got to do something. Like Hutton's rebound control is like god awful. Like it's really bad. But yeah, maybe they make a move for a goalie. Who knows? Be interesting.
And then sometimes Hutton goes like behind the net, and he like gives up the puck, and then he can't get back fast enough, and they get the empty net.
Yeah, he had that like famous like viral Twitter moment last year where I think he like tried to handle the puck and he like whiffed on it or something like that, and the goal or the skater just came and like took it from him and scored in like an empty net. So yeah, he's no Hasek back. Like Hasek was so good at handling the puck. He made you bite your nails a lot, but he was really good at at puck handling. So Hutton is not that.
What do you think the Bills will do this offseason? Because there's a free agent defensive guy that's out there that I've seen a lot of Twitter posts about it.
Does his first name start with J and J?
Yeah, JJ Watt, I think.
There you go. Yeah, JJ Watt, the host of Ultimate Tag, which would be great if we could say Ultimate Tag Season 2, hosted by JJ Watt, Buffalo Bills defensive end. I think that'd be cool, because now Bills are kind of going mainstream. Like we went from primetime to mainstream. Like Diggs is doing the Old Spice, Cole Beasley's in like the Grubhub or DoorDash commercial, like JJ Watt, future Bills defensive end hosting the Ultimate Tag on Fox. Like, oof, man, the Bills are starting to get like celebrity status now, which would be cool. Yeah, JJ Watt is a big topic. I've been kind of like going back and forth on him and whether I want the Bills to get him. I don't want the Bills to get him if they have to overpay. I don't want like a Mario Williams situation. I think like Spot Track had his like JJ Watt, that is estimated like salary cap hit is like 13 to 15 million, somewhere in there. Like, I don't know. He hasn't been productive in the last couple of seasons. 2 years ago, he was amazing. I think he had like 18, 19, 20 sacks or something. Definitely double digits. But the last 2 seasons, I know he played 8 games. 2 seasons ago, he had 4 sacks. He played a full 16 games this season and only had, I think, 5 or 6. So is that a result of, the question now is that a result of his kind of prime, he's in the downslope of his career, or is it just a matter of him being on a bad Houston team? I think it's the latter, because then I look at advanced analytics stats and I see like his 1-to-1 win ratio or something along those lines was like top 10 in the league at like 22%, up there with Jerry Hughes actually. So the advanced analytics are there, and maybe he's just a guy who needs a change of scenery. He's played with one franchise, one team his entire career. He's obviously a passionate player. He's obviously a skilled player. He'd be perfect for like the process, like Sean McDermott's process, as a process guy, a locker room guy. So like that gives me hope. I don't know, maybe. And I'm sure like towards the end, this is going to be one of his last contracts. Maybe he takes a 1-year prove it deal and then maybe inks another one after this year. But I think there's no better place to do a 1-year prove it deal than Buffalo, a perennial Super Bowl contender, who's on the up and up with a young like a stud quarterback, and you know, a really good defense year in and year out. They weren't that great this year, but they're still pretty good. But yeah, the one thing the Bills have needed is, you know, that dominant pass rusher. I've been calling it for years now. Is like, I would love a Von Miller-esque player, like Von Miller in his prime, right? Just a guy who other teams need to account for every single play, who takes up double teams, who always is pressuring the quarterback or making the quarterback think or get nervous in the pocket. JJ Watt could be that guy. We saw it like last year against the Bills in the playoffs. He was at times dominant and really changed the course of that game. So again, if the price is right, all day, I'll take them all day. But if we have to overpay, and you know, there's not a lot of pieces this team needs. Like, defensive end is a big one. I think the defensive line, Bean really missed on the defensive line last year. I think he took a couple big swings with some high-priced guys. Addison did not pan out, a typical 9 to 10 sack a year guy over his past 4 years. I think he ended up with 5 or 6. I think he ended up with 6, but definitely one of the worst years he's had recently. Vernon Butler, he flashed at times, wasn't very impactful, snap in and snap out. Quentin Jefferson was a guy who just didn't seem to really find his place on the defensive line. And those 3 guys alone have like a $25 million cap hit. So Bean was smart in terms of structuring the contracts. Like, Vernon Butler's dead cap, if they release him, is only like 1.5, and Quentin Jefferson's dead cap is only 1.2. Addison's is only 4, I think. So we can get out of those deals, and I think we will, to free up some cap space, especially during this year when there's a little uncertainty about the cap situation, if it's going up, and if it's going up, how much. So I don't think it'll be a lot. So they might be up against it a little. So they'll have to get creative. And I think we'll see the defensive line get affected the most. I love JJ Watt to come in here at the right price. I think he can be a really productive player. And man, the Bills Mafia fans would just feed off that energy, and vice versa. I think he would really make a mark here, even if it's on a 1-year deal.
What do you think the Bills will do at the draft this year?
Yeah, good question. Like I said, I mean, AFC Championship, there's not a lot of holes they can fill. They could go, you know, best player available. They're late first-round pick, obviously. I would love to see them, like, pull an old Patriots style and trade down and just get draft capital on draft capital, like continue to trade down until you find the right guys. I don't know. I'd love to see them. I don't. Bean didn't sound very confident that Milano is coming back. I would love to see him come back. I think he's a very important piece. But, you know, do you find a young stud guy sideline to sideline? I've said for a little bit now, and more I watch him, that Tremaine Edmonds might not be a middle linebacker. I think he's awesome. I think he's super talented. I just think him playing middle linebacker forces him to think a lot in terms of coverage and when to step up in gap assignments and things like that maybe he's not really great between the ears, but he's incredibly physical. And he's much better in the box and in coverage, as we saw this past year. So maybe Tremaine Edmonds has to bump, you know, outside in that 2 linebacker big nickel set that they typically run as their base. So maybe they bring in like a stud middle linebacker. You know, I'd again address the defensive line. We saw what was the biggest factor in the Super Bowl. Again, like, your goal now is to beat the Chiefs in the AFC. Like, figure out a way to beat the Chiefs. And what was Tampa's, you know, what was their main weapon against the Chiefs? Was a stud defensive line, like Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea, and Ndamukong Suh. Like, those guys are studs, like top tier elite players. So, like, that's what you need to beat the Chiefs. You need a stud defensive or front four, if you will. So, you know, give me that. I love that Oliver. I think Jerry Hughes is up on the Wall of Fame. He's first ballot Wall of Famer in Bills country. So, but give me another guy. Star coming back will be big, but give me another defensive end. Give me another young guy, and maybe it's Epinesa. Who knows? You know, he showed a little. He slimmed down. He showed a little. He played a little faster than I thought he would this year, coming out of Iowa. So, we'll see if it's him. But I would love to see like just a beast of like a Vita Vea kind of guy plug up that middle, because the Bills defense is typically weak against the run. We've seen that the past couple of years. Just give me that guy who can get, you know, draw a double team and give Ed Oliver and Jerry Hughes and whoever the other defensive end is, whether it's JJ Watt or Epinesa or whoever, give them room to win their one-on-one battles. And I think that's the way you beat the Chiefs, and that should be their main goal now. They could go other ways. They could go linebacker. They could go safety. Micah Hyde's, I think, in the last year of his contract coming up and not getting any younger. So do you bring in a young guy to replace him? They had interest last year in guys like Duggar and Chin. So maybe you go that route again. You need some speed in the backfield. So do you look at like a Najee Harris? I don't think they were too happy with Singletary. Zach Moss had a okay first year, but Najee Harris or Travis Etienne or something like that to really give you some more speed, because that's the one thing they miss in the backfield with speed. So there's a lot of avenues they could go. Honestly, I can talk about the draft all day. It's like my favorite time of year. So, but yeah, I would be pretty much happy with anything they do. Bean's typically hit on especially his early round draft picks. So, and Bean we trust, as we say around here.
And in one of our playoff games, Singletary didn't look like himself either.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know if it was due to kind of the weird offseason of no OTAs and no typical training camp, or kind of the players having to train on their own due to COVID, but he just looked like slower than usual. I mean, last year he was kind of like LaShawn McCoy light, or Diet LaShawn McCoy, or he's like that kind of jittery guy, one cut, and then he hits the hole. I looked at something like 2 years ago, the Eagles game. He caught a screen pass for a touchdown and kind of did like this high step kind of move and juked a guy, and he just looked like kind of bursty. And I didn't see that this year. And I know the offensive line isn't typically great at run blocking. They're much better at pass blocking as a front five, but there had to be. They flashed at times, but I just think that the point of the Singletary taking the handoff or Moss taking the handoff to the point they hit the line of scrimmage, they just look slower than a lot of what they showed in the past, or the defenses were faster than the running back. So I mean, I'd like to see them add some speed, and maybe it is Singletary. I'm not ready to give up on Devin Singletary. I think he's extremely talented. He's elusive. I love how his tackle breaking ability. So I think there's something there. I think if he puts together a full off season of training and kind of gets that speed back up, I mean, he could definitely be a starter. I don't think he's ever going to be like a Ezekiel Elliott or Kamara or Dalvin Cook kind of player where he's the focus of your offense, but can he be a 12 to 15 carry guy and kind of relieve Josh of some of those duties? I absolutely think he could. So, but like I said, Bean can go a lot of different ways, and we're almost there. We just need a couple more pieces. We need a couple more game changers, a little bit more speed up and down the roster, and I think the Lombardi Trophy is well in our sights. So.
Do you think that Bean and McDermott are doing a good job with their management?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they're the best. And they'll be here for a while, which is great. I said in our last podcast, it's finally nice to see like a coach and GM really have a plan and stick to that plan and watch it carry out over a long stretch here in the initial contract, and then they got the extension this year, so they're going to be here around here for a while, which is great to see. Coaches usually I feel like the coaches usually think the Bills are kind of like, well, there's nothing else out there, so I'll take this job because it's the only one I'm going to get at this time, and then I'll use that to elevate myself. So, I think they're really good. Like I said, I think Bean missed a lot in free agency last year. I think he needs to redeem himself. I think he did really well his first year with Morris and Brown and those guys, and even some role players like a Kevin Johnson or something. But this year, again, we mentioned Jefferson, Butler. I think those guys are misses. Josh Norman, he was okay. He had a couple turnovers, one in the Oakland Vegas game. But was he the answer to your second cornerback? No. don't bring EJ Gaines back. The guy's porcelain, please. I know he opted out this season, but he was hurt, and he's always hurt. And I like EJ Gaines too when he's healthy, so that's a shame. But he just missed on a lot of free agency. Like Klein was really struggled in the beginning during the Milano injury. He showed out as I think he got more comfortable in the system in his starting role, and maybe he has a bigger role going forward if Milano leaves. So we'll see. But yeah, I think Bean really needs to hit, but I think he's been great at drafting, especially in the later rounds. Like he finds some gems in the later rounds, and that's I think that's where you win championships. That's where how you fill out your roster is guys in the later rounds to fill those role player roles or special teams roles. He did a great job fixing the special teams, going from like bottom half of the league to one of the top units in the league with Tyler Matakevich and Taiwan Jones coming on board. So yeah, no. Bean can almost do no wrong in my book. Like I always say, in Bean we trust, because he'll make a move and I'll be like, yeah, that is the greatest move ever. And then after the season, I'll reassess and whatnot. But yeah, I think the way he writes the contracts, even if it's a move I don't like, I think it's very smart of him. Like I know he's been called like a wizard in terms of contract negotiations or these contracts he draws up. So yeah, I just think they're doing a really good job. McDermott on the coaching side, I think. Just like his quarterback that he's kind of, riding with here to his career on, relying his career on, and Josh Allen, I think they've evolved over time really nicely. Like we see Sean McDermott now, 3 years out of 4 make the playoffs, but this year especially, like I think he's really bought into like the advanced analytics stuff. You saw him be more aggressive. What happened in the Chiefs game in the AFC Championship, but where that aggressiveness went or aggression went, I don't know. But he's going for it on 4th down. He's trusting his players more. He's trusting Dable's offensive system more. Yeah, I just think the evolution of Sean McDermott has been really interesting to see. So yeah, these guys are all good in my book, and they not only on the field, I think it needs to be said too, off the field, how much they've taken to the city and the organization and just this community. You don't really see that on a lot of coaches, and I think it trickles down to the players too. I call Josh Allen Mr. Buffalo because he's always wearing Bills or Sabres or Bandits or Braves stuff, which is awesome. I love the Braves. So, but they just have taken to the heart of the city and really are a personification of Bills Mafia and what makes the city special. And Bean and McDermott, I think, have brought that attitude in, and that can't be not said, because I think that's a really special part of like their tenure here. So.
Lee, on your podcast, what do you talk about?
Yeah, so my podcast, I host it with another guy named Matt. It's called the Witty Not Funny Sports Podcast. Witty Not Funny is all one word. You can find us at Witty Sports 716 on Twitter and Instagram. We talk about kind of everything. Like, we're probably just two guys who think we're funnier than we are a lot of times, and we laugh at each other, and even though it might not be funny, but we talk typically mostly Bills, a little bit of Sabres when they're good or when they're not. We talked about last week, we talked about Super Bowl prop bets. We try to always do something at least like kind of witty and not necessarily funny. We always say, like, we don't expect you to laugh, but maybe if you get like a grin on your face or like a chuckle, like, we did our job. So we have like different segments. Like, we're both big fans of the show Seinfeld. So we do one Seinfeld segment where we use a quote from the show Seinfeld to describe how we feel about Buffalo sports. So we do like kind of like funny, goofy kind of different things like that. And it's been really fun. We've been doing it for just under 2 years now, and we've done the podathons with Ron, and those have been great, and we've met a great community in the podcasting community, including yourself, Robby. So it's been awesome. And like I said, it's just something we love doing. If it becomes something, it becomes something. But we love talking about sports. We love meeting new people. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. We'll follow you back because we love connecting to the community. But Witty Not Funny Sports Podcast. If you like us, leave us a review, subscribe. If you don't like us, if you give us 2 minutes or 2 hours of your time, we appreciate it, as we always say. If you don't like us, that's cool too. Thanks for giving us a try. But we're having fun doing it, and I think that's the most important thing.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, how's the bowling game? Did you hit 300 yet?
No, I haven't
Oh,
hit 300 yet, but it
how close are you?
so 288 is my closest.
Wow. Man, I don't even think I could get like 150 with bumpers. Like that's how bad I am at bowling. Like 288 is amazing. I don't think I can get that in Wii bowling. Like that's how bad I am. That's really good, bud. That's really good. Well, 300 is really close then. That's like one more strike, right? Then you get 300.
And um, you mentioned that you've done podathons with Ron and that too.
Yeah, that's been fun.
Um,
Hopefully we can do that again soon.
yeah, I haven't been to one yet. Um, with Ron.
Oh yeah, they're fun. So hopefully when the pandemic is over here and we can get back to normal a little and we can do those again with Ron. They're a lot of fun. You'll have to come to the next one. So I do have one question for you.
Okay,
Do you think the Sabres are going to make the playoffs?
I think that the Sabres could make the playoffs. Like, if they go on a 10-game win streak,
Oh, that'd be good. They've done
or
it the last 2 years. Why they can do it again, right?
yeah, I mean, it'd be good if they can go on like a 10-game win streak or um get like a bunch of wins together. And
Yeah, that'd be good. Who's been your favorite player this season?
my favorite player this season has been uh Victor Olofsson.
Oh, he's been fun to watch. That slap shot is like nobody else has that kind of slap shot on the team or in the league. Like he just fires the puck. I like to see like them get like the mile per hour gun out and see where he clocks in at because man, it's got to be up in like it's got to be triple digits. I don't even know how the goalie can see it when he hits that slap shot. If he hits it just right, like it's unstoppable. So that's a really good weapon to have on the power play. Yeah, Olofsson's been really good. Do you have an Olofsson jersey?
Uh, no, I have
Oh,
Duff Skinner's.
Jeff Skinner?
Yeah,
Oh,
from the 50th anniversary.
oh, that's a nice one. That's a sharp jersey. Yeah,
Yeah,
Skinner. Hopefully he can start scoring here. He's on a little bit of a cold streak, but before the season, like there was all the talk about Skinner's in the doghouse with Kruger, and he's not giving two-way effort and stuff. Like I think Skinner for not scoring a goal in 10 games this year has been like one of their best players on the ice. Like he's definitely their fastest. So, and this is a team that doesn't have a lot of like team speed, in my opinion. Like if he can start scoring, like that's gonna change a lot of things for this team. So yeah, I just hope they make the playoffs. That'd be great. Like especially now that they're letting or starting to let fans back in. I know there's like a full ticket price and COVID test price and all this stuff. So, it's an expensive game ticket as if it wasn't already, but you can't go on, StubHub anymore and get $10 tickets like 2 hours before the game. So, but if they can let fans back in and they can make a playoff run, there's nothing quite like, we didn't experience it with the Bills for so long, having home playoff games. So all we had was the Sabres, but those parties in the plaza and things like that, like, Drury scoring to send it into overtime and Max scoring in overtime. And those were some of the funnest moments, in recent Buffalo sports history. So hopefully we can get that stuff back, man. I would really love that. So Sabres just make the playoffs, make everyone happy, right?
and Maxim Afinogenov was one of my favorite players too. Like back in the day,
He was
um,
awesome. Yeah.
like when he scored that overtime goal, um, whenever that was, and he just slid like right in the middle of
Yeah.
the ice there.
Yeah. That was fun. Yeah. There was no other player that could like take the puck like coast to coast like he could, just with speed and skill. And, Eichel does it now, but, Eichel's like sneaky fast, but he's not like Max fast. Like Max was like bullet like out there. So, those were the golden era. I remember when Pominville scored against Ottawa in the second round of, what was it, like 04, 05, 06, I think it was 06 actually. But I was in my college dorm room sophomore year, and I went to Ohio State, and I was the only Buffalo Sabres fan at Ohio State because I was really the only guy in my dorm room from Buffalo. And I remember watching the game, streaming it, because obviously the TV's not playing it. But when Pominville scored that goal, I had my Goat Head Sabres jersey on, Taylor Pyatt, don't judge me. I run up and down the hallway screaming, and everybody at one time like sticks their head out of my college dorm and like, what the heck is going on? Why is this guy screaming? I'm like, the Sabres are going to the Eastern Conference. Man, that was fun. It was a fun time. So, like I said, hopefully we can get that back. That's all I got for you, though, Robbie. You got anything else for me, man?
Like, back in the day, like, who was your favorite Sabres player?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say Danny Briere, just because actually no, I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna say Derek Roy, and not for any off the ice stuff for watchers of this who know Derek Roy's story. On the ice, I just thought if you could get a guy for $4 to $5 million, and back then that wasn't as much as, like, it was a little higher, I guess, back in the day. But if you can get a guy for $4 to $5 million who can put up like 60 to 70 points and be like a number 2 center for you, like, that was a steal. And Derek Roy was really good. He's kind of like under the radar. Same thing with Briere. Like, we traded him for, I think he was in that Chris Gratton deal, if I'm not mistaken. And like, man, that turned the franchise around, that deal. And Briere was kind of an unknown player too, and he's like an organizational hero now. So I'd say like Briere and Roy are my 2 favorite guys growing up. I have a Derek Roy Slug signed jersey in my closet behind me. So yeah, Derek Roy I was a big fan of, because I just think he was like super efficient and super productive for the price cap you could get him at. So not that he was like an all-star player or anything, just, he was very solid for the price he came at. So
Thank you for watching this episode of Let's Talk Summer 6 Sports. Thank you to my special guest, Matt Greco, and go Sabres.
Thanks for having me out, Robbie. Go Sabres and go Bills.